Welcome to the Open to Hope Show in partnership with the Compassionate Friends. I'm your host, Dr. Heidi Horsley, with my mom and co-host, Dr. Gloria Horsley. We are going to be talking to Laura Diehl today about rebuilding your life after tragedy strikes. Laura Diehl is an author, teacher, speaker, and founder of Crown of Glory Ministries, traveling to more than a dozen nations. After the death of her oldest daughter, Laura, she and her husband, Dave, founded GPS Hope, Grieving Parents Sharing Hope, to help parents navigate the swirling black waters of grief and come to a place of hope and life again. Laura is the author of the book, When Tragedy Strikes, Rebuilding Your Life with Hope and Healing After the Death of Your Child.
Heidi and I are just blown away, by all the things that have happened in your life and what you've gone on to do. I mean, the death of your daughter. How many years ago was it that
she died in October of 2011? She was 29, and when she passed, she was married, and she had her daughter had just turned 9 years old.
Now, is she the one that had cancer?
Yes, when she was 3 years old.
So she really went a long time with that bone cancer.
Well, yeah, what happened was it was bone cancer, and so when she was 3 years old, she had her left leg amputated because the cancer had already destroyed the bone. And then she went through 9 months of chemotherapy. And depending on the cancer, bone cancer is not like remission, like leukemia. It's like you either have it or you don't. And so with her, what happened was one of the chemo drugs that they used for children at the time, they still use the drug, but they use it differently. They found out later long-term effects was heart damage. And so we had her tested in her early teen years, and yes, this drug from when she was 3 had done some heart damage to her. And so that's kind of what started the many years of heart issues, which is eventually what ended her life. So it's, one of those things that what saved her life at 3 did the heart damage and what caused her life to end at 29.
Wow. Now, Laura, did she give birth to her 9-year-old daughter?
She did. She was given a 50-50 chance of surviving her labor and delivery because of the stress that it would put on the heart, and they just had absolutely no idea what her heart was going to do. And so it didn't matter if it was a vaginal or a cesarean. Each way has a different stress on the heart. And she actually lived in the hospital for probably about 2.5 months because of her heart. They kept her there because obviously if her heart went, they had an immediate, need to get the baby out.
I want to move on with you because you have got so much wisdom because you were born, you were a pastor's kid, as you said, and grew up in that family, a pastor's family, and wow, you really go into it on your site. You got pregnant when you were 18. You got kicked out of the house by your mom and dumped by your boyfriend, and then talked about your daughter dying and your oldest son having problems, and then your husband had bypass surgery, and you have just gone on to do amazing things.
When she went through the deal with having her baby, when they took her back to have the baby, I found myself crying in my husband's arms, and I said, I don't get why I'm crying because in my heart, deep within me, I know that I trust God. Whatever happens, I know I trust God with whatever this outcome is, so I don't get why I'm crying. And he hit it on the head. He said, because we don't know what direction we're going to have to trust him for. That has really kind of, through everything, kind of been a something that I've come back to over and over again, and that God, at a very young age, I trusted Him with my life, and a lot of people will say, well, how could you do that? You've been through so much. How come God allowed all this? And I don't have the answer for that. I believe I will someday, but I still trust Him, and a lot of people talk about religion being a crutch. For me, God is my wheelchair.
Was there a time when you questioned God, or were you always feeling that faith?
As I look back, for some reason, I don't know why, but I can't really think of a time where I have just, turned my back on God and said, forget you. I know a lot of people do that, and I don't know why I haven't. I've been angry at him, there's no question about that. But for some reason, I've always known within me to turn my back on God would be to turn my back on the one thing that could get me through this, whatever it is I'm going through.
That's really interesting, because I think people think that when they're angry at God that they're turning their back on God, but that isn't true, is it?
I had my daughter one time, she was very angry at God for some things that our family was dealing with and whatever, and she said she was even swearing at God, blah, 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 and that she didn't believe in God anymore. She was trying to figure all that out, if she really did believe in God. And I just had to smile, because I thought, I knew she would come back to that faith, and she has very much so. But my thought was, because he's safe, to be angry at him, to yell at him, whatever, to me, it's like it's safe to do that because God gets it. Mm-hmm. He understands our emotions and our anger and our frustration and all that stuff. And so to me, it's safe to be angry at God.
Well, and we've had people on saying God has strong shoulders, God can handle it.
So you go around and speak all over the world. Tell us, what is the message that you want to bring to the people that are listening to this show today who have lost someone?
I really think the biggest message is there's hope. There's always hope. And a lot of it, there's a shift in our mindset that has to happen. There's forgiveness that desperately needs to happen, because we get angry at so many people, especially when a child dies. We can even be angry at the person that died. That sounds crazy, but we can be angry at them for leaving them, or angry at them for, like, I have a friend who lost her son at, I think he was 19, and it was a car accident, single car accident, driving too fast, and, she was always telling him, stop driving so fast, I don't want to lose you someday. And so she was angry at him, because that's exactly what happened.
Well, Laura, with that in mind, I agree with you. And my brother was a passenger in the car, and I still, when he died, I still felt like he had abandoned me, and I felt like he had left me in a grieving family that I didn't recognize, and I didn't want to be in that family. I just wanted to be in the family that I used to have.
I think everybody has to walk through consciously forgive everybody involved, forgive anybody and everyone who had anything to do with that person's death. For me, there was actually a doctor that was involved that made a statement to my daughter that changed her whole mindset, and she basically gave up.
Wow.
And it was shortly after that she passed.
What was the statement that he made, Laura?
Well, she needed a heart transplant, and she couldn't get on the transplant list because she was overweight. Now, having one leg makes you somewhat immobile. She grew up with a prosthesis, but as her heart was causing problems, you hang on to fluid, which makes you swell up. She couldn't wear her leg, and it just snowballed on her to where she had all this weight gain because she became more and more immobile. And so they could not give her a heart until she lost about 60 pounds. And so how do you lose weight when you're immobile, those kinds of things. And so they finally brought someone in. They were actually looking at the possibility of doing like a stomach stapling type thing. And this doctor came in and said, if you wanted to lose weight, you really could. I could lock you up in a room and feed you nothing but bread and water, and you would lose the weight. And from that point on, she quit eating. She wouldn't even, take her protein drinks. So the heart's a muscle. It has to have protein.
Wow.
And so I had a hard time, not in my head, blaming that doctor for what he said to her, because her thing was, okay, I'm going to lose weight. If I don't eat, I'll lose weight.
How did you get to the point where you gave forgiveness? Or
it's interesting because it really is a choice, and it's not a choice based on feelings. And there's a book, it's fairly popular, and they're making it into a movie. It's called The Shack. And I've read that book probably 4 or 5 times. Now, a lot of people that are Christians or very religious have a hard time with that book. For me, it was a book that just spoke a lot of things to me in a lot of different areas. But one of the areas was on forgiveness, and this man has a daughter that's murdered. Now, this book came out way before I lost my daughter, so it became even more meaningful to me after I lost her. But he had to forgive the man that murdered his daughter. And he started by just saying the words, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. And he didn't feel it in his heart, but he said the words anyway. And that's really what I tell people to do, is say it out loud over and over again. If you have to say it 100 times a day, say it 100 times a day. At some point, the reality of the words, it's like love. When you true love isn't based on an emotion, it's based on a commitment. You know, I'm going to love you no matter how I feel about you. Marriage, you know, I'm committed to you. There may be times I don't like you, but I'm going to love you. I'm committed to you. And I'm going to stay in this marriage until that love is there again. And I see forgiveness the same way.
One of the things that we know is gratitude. If you express simple gratitude every day for a few minutes, it actually changes your brain chemistry. And I would guess that saying I forgive, I forgive, I forgive would do that. Wouldn't you think, Heidi?
Yeah, I would. I was thinking the same thing. Or if you don't feel good in the morning, if you start thinking about positive things and running gratitude, like you said, Mom, or positive thoughts in your head, it can shift the way you feel. Even if you don't believe it and buy into it immediately, it still can shift it over time.
And another thing is, if you smile, even though you're not happy, it also changes your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
And you can put a pencil in your mouth, which causes you to smile, and hold it there, and it will change your chemistry.
Yeah, because those muscles are telling you, okay, you're smiling, and it's saying to your mind, to your brain, I feel good.
I think God made our bodies so amazing. If we just learn how they work. You know, I've heard of people at night, and I did this for a while too, is keeping a little notebook by your bed, and when you go to bed at night, write down 3 to 5 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep. You know, I personally, I ended up in a lot of isolation, and I think a lot of my hope and healing just came from, for me, just resting in the arms of God and just crying when I needed to cry, being angry when I needed to be angry. I mean, I would just have it out with God. Whatever I was feeling in my emotions is exactly what I would tell him. And then I would pause, and I would listen in my spirit, because I believe God talks to us spirit to spirit. And so I've learned how to listen to God's voice in my spirit. And so I would just lay it all out there and cry or whatever, and then just listen or allow him to allow myself to feel his love just cover me. And so for me, a lot of my healing came through just being alone and being honest with exactly how I felt for the moment, and then letting God touch me in whatever area that was that I was feeling.
Okay, Laura, you know what I love about this? I have a lot of clients that are grieving, and I notice what they do is they judge themselves. I'm not doing this right, and I'm not doing that. I'm not crying enough, or I'm crying too much, or I'm too angry, or I'm not angry enough. And what you're saying, in a sense, is just allow yourself to be, and don't judge it. Just love on yourself and be compassionate with yourself and be supportive with yourself.
Getting towards the end of the show, and I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you, how to get your book.
The best places they would find me is www.gpshope.org, and the GPS is Grieving Parents Sharing Hope.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you so much for giving so many people hope after loss.
And Heidi and I always want to remind everyone that please visit us at opentohope.com, and also, if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
You've been listening to Open to Hope Radio, hosted by Drs. Gloria and Heidi Horsley. Like today's edition, all of our past programs are available on demand at opentohope.com, along with helpful articles, videos, resources, and links to help get you through the toughest time of your life. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and sign up for our monthly newsletter. Again, that's opentohope.com. Check it out today. Then be sure to stop by next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, when we'll be posting another edition of Open to Hope Radio. Remember, others have been where you are. They made it through, and you can too, as long as you're open to hope.